What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and since the ACS12 full auto shotgun has been reworked for the launch of Operation Steel Wave, it means that my existing loadout meta videos for Maestro and Alibi are now completely outdated, and so in this video let's tackle the easy question first, namely which gun you should be using on Maestro and how to set it up. And actually, yes, the Alda has been nerfed a few rounds since its launch, and sure, the ACS is a completely different gun now, but let's be real here. The Alda is probably still one of the best, if not the best gun on defense, and so the purpose of this video was never going to be to genuinely find out if the ACS can compete with the LMG. It simply can't, and we all know it. Instead, let's take a slightly different approach here and aim to find out what the strengths and weaknesses of each gun are, which situations they might individually be best suited to, and how best to set them up with attachments. Let's go! Here first the obligatory stat overview, and hey, that actually doesn't even look as bad as I thought it might. It's almost a 50-50 split in terms of which gun is better. Interesting. So as always, let's start out with a more detailed look at the gun's combat capabilities before moving on to the handling and setup. The ACS does more single shot damage, surprise surprise, but has a somewhat shorter effective range. Makes sense. The appallingly low fire rate of the shotgun transfers over to a pretty abysmal damage per second output that is on average over 50% lower than that of the Alda. In practice, that means that even though the ACS will need 1 or even 2 shots less to down or kill at short ranges, the time to down or kill an opponent is still a lot worse than that of the Alda, especially if you hit the limbs or you shoot through cover. At longer ranges, as is so often the case, things become much worse for the weaker gun, and here the ACS only gets a 1 less hit advantage at best, and this of course translates into much worse time to kill differences, where the slug shotty will take between more than twice as long and up to almost 3 times as long as the LMG to dispatch an opponent. In all my time of testing and comparing guns in Rainbow Six Siege, this has to be the absolute worst time to kill difference I have ever seen for any character's main guns. Yikes! And once we move on to the softer stats, things don't initially improve much for the ACS, because as good as 30 plus 1? Look, really? Okay, I'll read it for now. I'll just read it. Because as good as a 30 plus 1 shot capacity is for a shotgun, and as bad as 80 plus 1 is for an LMG, it still counts as 1 more win for the Alda. Alright, look, before we move on, I know this is super low priority, but come on. The Alda is a belt-fed LMG that is fired from an open bolt. It is physically impossible for the gun to have a +1 round stored in the chamber. Wasn't this fixed in Siege ages ago? And while we're at it, the real-life AA12 shotgun can use either 8, 20 or 32 shot magazines, not 30, and oh wonder of wonders, this gun also fires from an open bolt, which means that if you ever end up with a +1 cartridge in the chamber, you're dealing with a malfunction. The gun won't work, and if for whatever reason it does manage to set off the next cartridge when you pull the trigger, you're gonna end up with a nasty out-of-battery detonation. I know these are small details that don't actually affect the gameplay, but if this issue was fixed for some of the guns once, could we not just have a full pass to fix all of the other guns at the same time? And can guns that came after the initial fix not just be correct right out of the box? Okay, rant over, moving on. The Alda does get access to the suppressor, but on this gun, I'm not a huge fan to be honest. The damage reduction means that at close range it is going to cost you 1 extra shot to down or kill in 4 out of the 6 armor type and strike location combinations, and each time that is going to result in an extra 67 milliseconds TTK. Sure, the resulting firepower is still greater than that of the ACS12, but let's face it, that's not really anything to boast about. At long range, things are, as usual, slightly worse, and the suppressed Alda will need 1 extra shot in almost all cases. If you think you will benefit from suppressing this LMG, give it a go by all means, but for me personally, the reduction in takedown power is just a bit too much to justify using this attachment. The basic summary of both guns' combat capabilities is that, of course, the Alda is better in just about every way, and not just by a little bit, but essentially by a lot. So, can the handling qualities of the ACS redeem it somewhat? Well, yes actually. Of course, the reload times for the LMG are considerably longer, and yes, you read that correctly, the tactical reload time for the Alda is actually half a second longer than its full reload from empty. This does make sense if you consider that emptying an LMG that is still loaded involves manually removing the remaining length of belt rather than just removing the empty box magazine. The default aim-down sight times for both guns are pretty similar at 400 and 450 milliseconds respectively, but the ACS12 does have the option of attaching an angled grip, which will give it a significant advantage. Hipfire for the ACS is also much better in all situations and stances except when prone and not moving. Here are all of the standard stances we test for in a side-by-side comparison. When it comes to recoil, both guns are pretty easy to handle right out of the box. The default recoil patterns are the ones you're seeing on the left here, and then for the ACS, we have the pattern with the vertical grip attached, and for the Alda, the vertical grip with the muzzle brake, vertical grip with the flash hider, and vertical grip with the compensator. So let's discuss the optimal setups for each gun. The ACS is very limited in its attachment options, and even though it does get the option of reducing vertical recoil with the vertical grip, I personally think that due to the gun's super low fire rate, most players will be able to control the recoil easily enough without it, so my recommendation is that you go with the angled grip for better aim-down sight time instead. For the Alda, the options are a bit more varied, and what you pick depends mostly on how you personally play the gun. The vertical grip is a no-brainer of course, since it's the only choice, and when it comes to the muzzle attachments, the muzzle brake is great for very short bursts, the compensator is better for longer bursts, and the flash hider offers a compromise between the two. If you're some kind of freak who tap fires this 80-shot LMG, then I guess the muzzle brake could work for you, but in my practical tests, even when firing off shorter bursts of less than 30 shots at a time, I had by far the best results when using the compensator. If you do want to minimize the first shot recoil jump, then honestly, the flash hider is easily good enough, so forget the muzzle brake, but really, I personally will be using the compensator and recommend you give it a go too. Now before wrapping up, we do need to consider the additional strengths of the ACS12. As a shotgun, it does have full breaching capabilities, which means that you can easily shoot open hatches and that you can shoot rotation holes into walls. Just about. Because let's face it, as a slug gun, the breaching capabilities of the ACS are more of a suggestion, more of a mild aroma in the air, rather than an actual taste. Okay, forget that last one, this is getting weird. The point I'm making is, yes, the ACS can be used for breaches, but let's be honest, it's pretty shit at it. The other unique little advantage is that as a slug gun, the ACS has full penetration capabilities, which means that a single shot can pass straight through multiple opponents, or teammates for that matter, and damage each of them. The Alda only has simple limb penetration, and all that means is that you can still score a head or chest shot on a character even if their arms or legs are in the way. Full penetration sounds like a cool feature to have, but really, the number of times you'll get a collateral hit are extremely low in Rainbow Six Siege. Basically, the summary here is that yes, the ACS has some extra features, but no, they're not game-changing, like, at all. Final conclusion, and even after all of the nerfs over the past season, the Alda is still an extremely capable gun on defense. Easy recoil control with great damage output. Sure, the reload and ADS times will always be weaknesses of the LMG class, but this does not in any way make the ACS12 a viable choice. If you're looking to have some fun, by all means bring the ACS as the meme cannon it is, but other than that, stick to the Alda. If you really want a slug shotgun, play Kaid or Goyo instead, and if you really want to be able to remodel the sight, for heaven's sake, just bring something with buckshot. You know, like for instance the buckshot revolver that Maestro himself can equip as a secondary. And that's it. I will of course also be comparing the new ACS with Alibi's MX4, and something tells me that things could get a little more interesting during that comparison. Keep an eye out on the channel for that video coming soon, but for now, many thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.